Hey there, everybody, welcome back. It's Enigmatic Entertainment, back again with another video. You know the deal, so let's keep it real. For those that don't know, DMX, aka Darkman X, aka Earl Simmons, passed away on April 9th, 2021. Apparently from a drug overdose, which led to a heart attack, which led to brain damage. From reports that you can see pretty much everywhere now at this point, it's once again another tragedy, especially for the hip-hop community. He was probably in my top 10 to 15 rappers of all time. I first heard about him when I was in elementary school. I might have been maybe 6, 7, 8 years old. I'm not like a new fan or anything like that. I know the timing of this review might make it seem like that, but for those that know me, know that's not the case. His album's right here. It's been sitting in my closet for I don't know how long. I bought this a few years ago, at least. I meant to actually even review it earlier, considering that this is a hip-hop classic. But here we go. This is DMX. It's dark and hell is hot. And like I said before with the Pop Smoke review, they are deceased, but this is purely based on the music, not on their character as a person whatsoever. I wish their family and friends and fans all the best. Let's get right into it with track number 1. The intro. Now, usually album intros are maybe a skit or a short verse or even just an instrumental, which I typically don't bother listening to much after the initial time. This right here, however, subverts all of those expectations by being one of the greatest hip-hop intros I've ever heard. Who can forget Mike Tyson coming out in his fight against Botha, or Botha, I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm not a fan of boxing, honestly. Back in 1999, shortly after this album was released. Honestly, I had to stop typing out this review just to go watch that intro again because it's freaking amazing. It's such a menacing song, and DMX does what the title states. He introduces himself to the game, not just as a rapper, but as a legend in the making. In the second verse, he describes his eventual reign of hip-hop blatantly by stating that by 2003, he's going to be somebody in this industry. Which is not just a braggadocious line coming from him. It's true, he did it. By 2003, he had 5 #1 albums. The first hip-hop artist to ever accomplish this feat. It's full of vivid, boastful, aggressive mentions of street fights, robbery, and shootouts. And he even references a true story of him getting jumped. He got his wired shut, and he recorded this album still while doing it and everything like that. It's honestly really an amazing story. And this is easily my favorite song on the album, and top 5 song by him overall. The instrumentation is no joke either. It fits seemingly perfectly with his voice delivery and subject matter. It's as foreboding as he is on the microphone. Track 2 is Ruff Ryders' Anthem. Considered one of the best songs by him and definitely one of his most popular ones. It was released as the 3rd single from the album, and as the title says, it's an anthem for the Ruff Ryders crew. It's an iconic hip-hop song that put the Ruff Ryder crew on the map, honestly, in hip-hop. DMX spits lines about being a unit and explains quite well how they move. Definitely a change from his usual flow here, and it is the hit song of the album. That, what ad-lib that you hear after every line he spits makes the song more like a call and return. Almost as if he's giving orders to his Ruff Ryder soldiers. And being the lead artist from the record label, he's kind of like the general, honestly. And he makes it quite clear. The chorus, though, is probably the most well-known feature of this song alongside the beat, though. Which, ironically enough, according to an interview by producer Swiss Beats, DMX wasn't even into the beat at first. And it took some convincing in order for him to even use it. It then became one of the biggest hits, which, of course, is just pretty dang ironic, right? Sometimes it does pay to listen to the people around you, which is even more telling considering that this is a song about the camaraderie between said people. Once again, this is another one of my top 5 songs on the album, probably. Number 3 is Fuckin Wit D. As you can probably guess, DMX explains here exactly what happens to people that mess with him. More vigorous rhyming full of threats and boasts of toughness. One of the shortest songs on the album, and the production goes right along with that, it gives you this sense of urgency, like messing with DMX is really going to have you hurting. It's a warning to just stay away, like fall back, for real. It's not a favorite of mine in totality of the album, but I'd probably rank it somewhere in the middle, and it's still pretty good. I wouldn't call it a bad song by any means, honestly. Next is track number 4, The Storm. This is the first of 3 skits on the album. It's just these two guys talking back and forth, having a conversation about DMX, stating that he robbed people, and then the other guy's like, well, you rob people too, you sound like a hypocrite, blah, 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 basically. And this probably just tells DMX, or is basically a stating from DMX about how other people probably see him. And this leads right into the next track, which is track 5, Look Through My Eyes. Following directly from that skit, he starts to talk about people judging him for what he does. The chorus, he recites it quietly and calmly, like a solemn urging to the audience or the listeners to look at things from his perspective and understand why he does what he does. The first song on the album that really delves deeper into the suffering that he's gone through, rather than being some kind of braggadocious tale of crimes and violent street talk. It's good to break up the monotony sometimes. He keeps his typical aggressive tone, although from a different angle, perhaps. It's a nice break in the mood, and fits quite well still with the overall theme. Production-wise, it's also slower, and there's this thunderstorm in the background that kind of gives this added sense of an atmosphere of rainy nights where you can really just sit back, contemplate, and self-reflect. It's one of the more relatable tracks, I'd say, on the album. Next up is number 6, Get At Me, Dog. This is the debut single of the album and one of his most well-known and highest charting songs also. Sheek Louch from The Lox is on the chorus and one of the very few features on the album. A line dissing Tupac was originally on this song, but after his death, Tupac's name was replaced with K Solo instead, whom DMX had a beef with at the time. I guess that goes to show that this song was recorded sometime in 1996, and it's probably one of the earlier recorded tracks on the album. Lyrically, this is nothing new for X. It's more aggressive and vicious lines, like I've said before. And actually, there's also 2 references to the Transformers here, which is really nostalgic for me because I used to watch that show all the time. And it seems like X had some pretty good taste in what he watched too on TV. Another classic track, honestly. Next up is track 7, Let Me Fly. X pleads to have peace from the suffering he goes through as shown in the chorus. It's one of the first songs in which he references a conversation with God and mentions selling his soul to the devil. It's quite an emotional track and one of the more relatable ones, once again. It's a cry for help in sharp contrast to large portions of the rest of the album where he seems completely confident, strong, and almost untouchable. Songs like this give the album more emotional depth, which made it so much more than just some kind of like typical hardcore street hip-hop rap album. Next up is track number 8, X is Coming. This is definitely one of the darkest songs on the album. The title and chorus are taken from the movie Nightmare on Elm Street, and it's foreshadowing a pretty gruesome story to be told on the track. In each verse, X details various murders that he's responsible for. The second verse in particular is brutal as he elaborates on breaking into a house, killing the wife, raping the daughter, while the father watches, then proceeds to shoot and kill him too. It's some pretty brutal stuff, and honestly, thanks to songs like this album can be considered horrorcore, and not just like a New York hardcore hip-hop album. The production also sounds like it would fit in a horror movie and includes some sounds of like electricity, sparking, and a thunderstorm in the background again, which perhaps is a reference to how horror movies often take place on dark, stormy nights for atmospheric purposes. It's another one of the songs that definitely fits the theme and title of the album and speaks on DMX's Darkman X persona. Or that, that's where he get his nickname from, or the DMX rather stands for. A lot of people don't really know what DMX stands for, but hey, it is Darkman X. Next up is track number 9, Damien. This is one of the standout tracks on the album and the first in the trilogy of Damien songs that he would go on to release on subsequent albums. His next album has Omen, which is Damien 2, and then his album after that, I believe, has Damien 3. This is another top song on the album for me, and once again, there's this hard, menacing production that just exudes a feeling of evil. X has a conversation with the devil throughout the song and does the voice of both as well. Pretty talented. The story starts off with the devil offering him a hand with getting into the music industry with promises of making him a hot rap star, and turns into X having to murder people, even his own friends at times, in order to keep his part of the deal. Probably one of the best metaphors for the shady record label deals that artists often find themselves in. Like Q-Tip said, industry tip number 3000 something, record labels are shady. I forgot how the line goes. Don't quote me directly, but hey. My memories of this song go back to like when I was in elementary school. The chorus always stuck with me. The snake, the rat, the cat, dog. How you gonna see it when you living in the fog? It's classic. And it's probably, once again, one of my earliest hip-hop memories and lines that really stuck with me. It's a top 5 song on this album for me, easily. It's typical New York hip-hop sounding drums for the production, with some chilling instrumentation from what sounds like a violin maybe, or some other kind of string instrument. I just love it. Next up is track number 10. How's It Going Down? Every album needs a love song apparently, and this is the one for this album, or the closest thing to it at least. The single version of the song features a feature from Faith Evans on the chorus, and the album version features someone else on the chorus instead. I don't know who. It's kind of hard to find a name, but I prefer the single version. She sings beautifully. It's one of my favorite DMX songs of all times, once again. It's just kind of funny, though, how we go from Damien right into How's It Going Down when you look at the track list. I mean, because this is a lot more upbeat, a lot more radio-friendly, and is pretty much a hit single. It's the story of a man who finds himself having an affair with a woman who has 2 kids already with someone else, and the details of this triangle from DMX's perspective, being the man outside. X, of course, keeps it as hood as can be with this track, though. The song begins with a phone call between the parents in question, with the man questioning the woman about this, ex-fellow that she's been seeing, and she denies it, so on and so forth, blah, blah, but starts things off already knowing there's tension between them. Ultimately, though, X winds up calling off the affair in the third verse, seemingly out of having a heart and not wanting to damage a relationship any further because of the children involved. She got 2 kids by this nigga. It was wrong for me. Yeah, The premise isn't one I can really rock with, as I'm not a fan of broken homes or anything, but as a song, I love it. It's also another one of the first X songs I've ever heard, and another top 5 song on the album for me. This first half of the album, just... Next up is track 11, Mickey, which is the second skit on the album. Apparently, Mickey Mouse is a crackhead wanting to purchase from whoever is the other voice in this skit. Regardless, it's pretty dang short and leads right into the next song, which is track number 12, Crime Story. Gather around, kids, because DMX has yet again another story to tell. This time, though, it's all about crime, which isn't actually too different from the typical subject matter of the album, so I don't know, you didn't really need to call it Crime Story, but hey, it is what it is. He tells a story here that escalates from just simply robbing someone to shooting and killing a police officer, to then running into a freaking police precinct and blowing the place up in a suicidal bombing. I don't know what he was on. That's rhetorical. Obviously, we know what he's on, but still. He raps here with a more subdued and kind of relaxed tone, almost as if he's just chilling with some friends, regaling them with stories of his youth, which fits the production, because it sounds like it fit in some kind of 80s detective film, which is ironic considering X is the criminal in this freaking story. Next up is track 13, which is Stop Being Greedy. This was released as the second single from the album, and as the title says, X is demanding people to stop being so damn freaking greedy and to share that damn wealth or he'll take it by force. It's truly a song that represents the need for better wealth equality. Who knew that you could turn to hip-hop for your political ideology needs? I know, right? It's not like we have like Public Enemy and things of that nature, right? X displays two different personalities here in slightly different voices, just like he did on Damien, showing again, once again, his freaking multi-talented self. Every 4 bars, he switches from the guy who's a bit more calm and just wants to find a way to be successful with the rapping and whatnot, and then the darker, more aggressive tone that he typically raps in throughout the rest of the album, in which he'll rob, steal, kill, do whatever he has to in order to get by. It's easily one of the most creative and relatable songs on the album. And not relatable because all the robbing and killing, but relatable because I freaking can feel him. People are freaking greedy. That's how it goes. The beat even switches up when he switches his voice every 4 bars. And he even does it for the chorus as well. The chorus is repeated. The first time it's in this voice. The second time it's in the other voice. And these are things I really didn't notice until hearing the song actually like a few times. It didn't really sink in with me like that. And I'm just like, blown away. You know what I mean? The video is actually pretty cool too because it has him portraying both versions of himself. The rapper, as well as the criminal who does all the things that he talks about in his rhymes. It's pretty good. Go check it out. Next up is track 14, ATF. This song right here made me have to Google what ATF even freaking means when I bought the album and listened to it. I was like, what is that? Am I the only one that didn't know that it stands for Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms? The government has so many freaking agencies, I just can't keep track sometimes, honestly. I'm not gonna lie. Anyways, back to the song. It's the shortest song on the album and tells another story of crime. Just like Crime Story. This time, though, he has that sense of urgency again and being in a rush. There's plenty background noises to go along with his frantic, heavy breathing and rapping. Police sirens, gunshots, and the like. Overall, it has a lot going on given its very short runtime. It's less than 2 minutes long. I don't hate it, as I can see where he's going with it, production-wise and whatnot. And I love storytelling, but it's not one of the songs I really find myself going back to listen like that on a regular basis. Next up is track 15, For My Dogs. This is the first of only 2 songs with guest verses and not just someone singing on the chorus. Like Ruff, Ryder, Anthem, this song details the camaraderie between the crew. Each rapper spits their take on their dogs, their homies, their friends, their partners, whatever you want to call them. Supporting them in beef, having their back, and all that, As I always say when I see these kinds of songs, it's really nice to hear rather than, a bunch of like backbiting and snake behavior and lies and betrayal and things of that nature. Rough Rider artist Drag On is one of the features on this song, and honestly the only one that I really recognize, but all of them, there's 4 rappers besides DMX, really did their thing. The guests talk about X and lift him up with words of support, and he comes in last acknowledging the support they show, and basically this is a song dedicated to all of them. As you can see, this is for my dogs, like the chorus says. Next up is track 16, which is I Can Feel It. Are you feeling it, Mr. Krabs? I don't know. The hip-hop version of In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins, basically. This song includes a sample of that song, as well as an interpolation of that chorus. Here, DMX spits some pretty honest lyrics about struggling, getting over obstacles, and really making the right choices in life. The production sample is a classic, and it sounds great. What else is there really say about it? It's one of the songs on the album that you can sit back and listen and just contemplate on things. The beat is smooth, and the chorus is great. You can groove to this despite the contrast in X's typical aggressive tones still. Next up is track 17, which is Prayer, the 3rd skit, and the first in the Prayer series that DMX would continue on subsequent albums. As in a few other tracks on here, DMX displays his faith and religion wholeheartedly and questions his struggles and suffering. He isn't afraid to talk about his religion on his album. Respect to that. Hey. Next up is track 18, The Convo. In a similar situation to Damien, DMX has a conversation with someone, as the title says. However, this time instead of Damien or the devil, it's with God. He does the voice for both once again, just like Damien, and he details the things he's gone through and questions if God has really been there to help him, as he hasn't been able to see it at times. Once again, being very open and putting his religion on full display for others to see. Props for being one of the first, if not the first, very big name artist, or rapper at least, to do it like that. Songs like this paved the way for Kanye West to make his hit song, Jesus Walks, a few years later. It's not one of my favorite songs sonically, but you can't help but respect his determination and struggles that he's been through, that he puts on display right here in particular. Last but not least is track number 19, Niggaz Done Started Something. This is the album closer, and the other song on the album that features other rappers, like This Is For My Dogs. This features LOX, The Lox, and Mace. This would also be Sheek Louch's second appearance on the album, as he did the chorus on Get At Me Dog, like I said previously. Every artist here did their friggin' thing. Hardcore, braggadocious verses from dudes from Yonkers and a Harlem rapper over a 90s New York sounding beat. What more could you really want to finish off this classic album besides the posse cut with some of the best New York rappers for that time period, you know? Now, overall, this is considered a classic album by many hip-hop fans and artists alike, including myself. It started the Ruff Ryders dominating the charts for a while. There's a few songs on here I don't really like too much, or find myself going back to like that, I should say. But it's definitely an album that if you pick a song from, I'm not going to say, yo, I hate this song, switch it to another one. Which is a lot, honestly, coming from me, considering my music taste. The storytelling songs and tracks, with him showing a different side of himself, are quite interesting and a nice addition to all the rough, tough talk on display throughout the album. I enjoy hardcore hip-hop and horrorcore at times as well, so this is right up my alley, honestly. The theme of the album being the darker side of a person and how that can leave us feeling like there's no other way to get by sometimes, besides to do wrong, to commit crimes, and do some of the things that DMX has done in his past, show really, he had this really hard upbringing. Extremely hard. And coupled with that, it really shows that you get this feeling of being like cautious of him, because he might rob you, but also sympathizing with him and his pain. It's honestly just beautiful. One of the most beautifully crafted hip-hop albums, especially of the late 90s. Put New York back on the map, I'd say. And I'm just going to close this out by saying, you know, we miss him already. I speak for pretty much any real hip-hop fan out there, especially those that were around in the late 90s, early 2000s or whatnot, that really remember Ruff Ryders, remember DMX, Swiss Beats, and that whole unit. This is a classic album, and my top 5 songs on there are, I mean, I'm pretty sure I mentioned them already, but the intro, Ruff Ryders Anthem, How It's Going Down, Damien, and Stop Being Greedy. What's your top 5? How do you feel about DMX? How do you feel about this album? Feel free to leave it in the comment section below. And of course, I will be checking out every comment, and I will be responding to you guys as soon as I can. As always, thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Follow the channel on Twitch. I stream on a regular basis. And follow on Twitter, Instagram as well, of course. And that's all for now, guys. It sucks, honestly, that this freaking really had to happen. But if nothing else, at least we still have his music. I might review some more of his albums later on. And it's really hard to just review albums of people that passed like this. I know I haven't put out an album review in a while, but I do kind of want to start getting back and doing that on a regular basis again. So just stay tuned for more. And like I said before, thank you for watching. I'm still here. You're still here. And, you know, let's do better. I'm out.